What is going on? I want to welcome you from F-Court for today, Monday, January 23rd, 2023. I'm your host, Sean Murphy. And today, I got the bad boy shirt on for a reason, man. I don't give a we got to have a conversation because I keep going on Twitter. Each and every year, the same crap happens almost each and every time around this time of the year. We look at players and how they're playing, and we almost immediately go into a redraft. It doesn't matter if this draft happened yesterday. It doesn't matter if this draft happened a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. It doesn't matter if it happened 20 minutes ago. Based off of the most recent performance or the most recent thing that we're seeing, we always have this compulsive need based off of our most recent given information do an entire impulse redraft and say this is how it actually should have gone. And what I'm specifically referencing to, if you don't know, is on Twitter over the last couple of days, I've seen this brought up by numerous people talking about the 2021 draft class specifically. If they were to do a redraft, how many people would go ahead of Cade Cunningham? Specifically, this is from Andy Bailey. He is an NBA reporter for Bleacher Report. Isn't it funny, by the way, that all the dumb always comes from Bleacher Report? What a funny coincidence. Anyway, he said, if you have to start a franchise with someone from the 2021 NBA draft, how many players are you taking ahead of Cade Cunningham for the number one pick? For reference, here's the top 20 in the 2021 draft class in career minutes. And it goes, there are currently 10 guys ahead of Cade Cunningham in career minutes. It's Scottie Barnes, Franz Wagner, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, Ayo Dosunmu, Herbert Jones, Josh Giddey, Davion Mitchell, Corey Kispert, Alperen Sengun. And if we were going solely off of minutes played, there would be an argument to be made. However, I'm not really sure if we're looking at quality here because we're solely focusing on quantity. And listen, there are some phenomenal players in this class. And if the Pistons were to go back and have an opportunity to pick again, I'm sure with the quality of play of guys like Franz Wagner, with guys like Evan Mobley, that it makes Troy Weaver's decision much harder. 100%. But he's picking Cade Cunningham if he has another opportunity to every single day and twice on Sunday. And let's talk about the reason why. Because first of all, when we look at what Cade Cunningham's done, when we look at why he's not been on the court, is because of a shin injury, specifically a stress fracture. And from all signs that we've gotten thus far post-surgery from the Cunningham camp, from the Pistons camp, all inclination is that Cade Cunningham actually had a blessing in disguise with having this surgery and having this injury, and that he's going to be ready to get back to work once the season's done to prepare for next season. Not only that, but we can look specifically, well, what did Cade Cunningham do when he was actually healthy this season, or when he was actually relatively healthy, like on the court playing basketball, right? Because we know that this shin was actually bothering him a little bit since high school. By the way, the fact that Cade Cunningham wasn't fully 100% since high school, and he was considered a lock at number one at the number one pick. We don't talk about that, but anyway, that's a whole other conversation. With Cade Cunningham, we look at what he did specifically in that 5-game stretch. When they were playing against some of the best teams in the league, 2 games against the Hawks, 2 games against the Bucks, and 1 against Golden State. And in those games, Cade Cunningham averaged 24 points, 7.8 rebounds, 6.8 assists, in 3 turnovers. The guy was an absolute bucket. He was controlling the court all around. He was phenomenal. 89% free throw shooter, 48% from the field. He was only shooting 25% from 3, and he was doing all of this. And mind you, I would wager that Cade Cunningham's struggles from beyond the arc thus far in his career would probably have a little bit to do with the fact that he's been shooting on a bad wheel since he's come into the league. The fact that a lot of his shots as well seem to have been just short, seem to not quite reach the rim. You think not quite having that full bounce having that shin that aggravated you. You don't think that has anything to do with that, but the fact remains that it's only been a season and a half since this draft has taken place. And mind you, we could talk about the other situations and circumstances in which these players play in, because we talk about all the time how important it is, the situation and the circumstances in which you land in, right? So let's look at Evan Mobley playing alongside Darius Garland, one of the better guards in the East. And what's that? In year 2, they trade for Donovan Mitchell. Oh, and now they're instantly a contender? Funny how that happens, right? Scottie Barnes, year 1, alongside Pascal Siakam, all-star level Fred VanVleet. The Raptors were really good. And now, this year, Fred VanVleet, not the same guy. Pascal Siakam, in and out of the lineup. OG Anunoby, really good, but he can't carry the team. Scottie Barnes, good player, but skill-wise still has a long ways to go. And let's be honest, from the looks of it, didn't really make major improvements this summer. Seems to play a lot in the gym and gotten a lot of work in. Seems like it didn't translate for whatever reason. That's a whole other conversation. The point is, he's not that great right now either. Franz Wagner, really able to elevate his game, really able to have less pressure on him in the offensive end when he has a guy like Paolo Banchero alongside him. A guy like Bol, who's become as much of a threat as he's been. An Orlando situation where they started their rebuild with multiple first-round picks, with good young players and assets, with guys like Markelle Fultz, who was a former number 1 overall pick. Orlando's a really good team. Franz Wagner's a hell of a player, not making any justifications otherwise. But the point is, his environment has given him a situation where he can thrive. Whereas Cade Cunningham has had to shoulder his environment since day 1. He's been getting scouted like a number 1 option since his first game in the league against Orlando. By the way, I was there in the building. I could see it with my own eyes. This guy was getting double teamed since the first quarter of his debut. And in our limited sample size, we have seen Cade Cunningham on multiple occasions go up against MVP candidates and more than hold his own, and in fact, at points, outplay guys like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Nikola Jokic, Devin Booker. I've seen him outplay them all. And I understand that it was in Detroit, and I understand that he's getting the touches because of the fact that he's on a young team that's still improving on a roster that isn't quite what people, are saying is the standard, right? But he still did that. And I understand that Detroit games aren't exactly televised nationwide. I understand the record wasn't exactly the greatest last year. And I understand that Cade Cunningham had some high turnover numbers as well, and that there were things to point at and look at as concerns too. However, do we not understand when we talk about the importance of the environment that you're in? We've seen this season, since Alec Burks has come back into the lineup, that the Pistons have had the number 1 bench in the league. We've seen with the improvements of guys like Jalen Duren and what he's shown that he can do since day 1, what Jaden Ivey's been able to do since the start of his rookie season, the growth and evolution that we've seen from Isaiah Stewart. Imagine that guy next to Cade Cunningham. Imagine that Killian Hayes next to Cade Cunningham. Imagine that Sadiq, that Bojan, that Alec Burks. And then all of a sudden you're telling me they have a chance at Victor Wembanyama? They have a chance at Scoot Henderson and one of the Thompson twins and Brandon Miller from Alabama? And they're going to play alongside Cade Cunningham? Like, that's what people don't understand. And then the other thing as well, we look at all these redrafts. We talk about all these things that these teams should have done, and we make these definitive judgments on players who, mind you, a lot of these guys that we're talking about just now are becoming legal drinking age. And let's look at players, not just in the NBA, but throughout sports that we made hardline judgments on, and just in the past year alone, have been shown why we were so premature to do so. Lauri Markkanen to the Utah Jazz, a guy who we called a bust for the Chicago Bulls just 2 years ago, who just last year was traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers for pennies on the dollar and was signed there. Well, actually, he was signed there because Cleveland didn't want him. He wasn't even traded. He was just available in free agency, and Cleveland signed him. And quite frankly, he was pretty good ever since day one when he stepped to the building. He was traded to Utah, not even the centerpiece of that trade. And now, a potential future all-star for years to come. The centerpiece of the Utah Jazz rebuild. Perhaps one of the best power forwards in the league. A guy that looks like a potential reincarnation of Dirk. Even the NFL, Geno Smith. A guy who we called a career backup, first game of the season. Everyone wrote me off. I didn't write back though, right? How many times have we seen in sports when we overlook people, when we count people out, when we do these things and make these premature judgments that were proven that those were wrong, and how stupid those conversations were? I mean, hell, this time last year, the Boston Celtics were 9th in the Eastern Conference. We were talking about whether or not they should blow it up and whether or not Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown should be split. So the point is, maybe, just maybe, we don't have these redraft conversations when it's only been not even 2 full seasons, right? Because when we can actually see Cade Cunningham in a valuable situation, that is when we will see whether or not Detroit made the right decision. When Cade Cunningham is in a position where he has to deliver, that is when you will know. When you have to see Franz in the same position, we have to see Evan Mobley in the same position, that is when you will truly see their worth. We talk all the time about how amazing these guys are in the first half of the regular season or in the second half of the regular season. With that, it's all about what happens in the playoffs. It's all about what happens in the finals. It's all about what happens over the longevity of their careers. And quite frankly, I think Cade Cunningham has the chance to have a really special career. I think Franz, Evan Mobley, all these guys have that same chance. But the fact that we're talking about what these teams should have done when we don't even know the half of who these players are, to me, it's just ludicrous. But with that, I would love to know your thoughts. What do you think of the whole redraft conversation? Would you personally draft someone else other than Cade Cunningham? If you would, I would love to hear your explanation as to why. But otherwise, folks, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.